tell me what to do, how to share it. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, nobody came in yet, but we're live. Hi, I'm Nick Angel, and welcome to Awake and Aware. I want to thank you for joining us. It's a Sunday night. Weather's nice. It's 11:22, and I've been highly anticipating having my guest here. This is Charlene Decicco, and I've been waiting all week to pronounce her name because I thought I was going to butcher it, but I think I just got it right. So super glad she's here. She's all the way in from Hollywood, California. So I'm just going to roll our intro right here, and we'll be right back in just a second. I'm up. Nice. So welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Nick Angel, and this is Awake and Aware, Sunday night, 8:30, our new time. This is the time we'll be scheduled to be live every week. We might make some exceptions, but for the meantime, we'll be at 8:30 Sunday evenings every week. It looks like we've got some people that joined us. Awesome, thanks for joining us. Looks like we're showing live in Quebec right now, so pretty cool. We're coast to coast, and I want to take the moment just to introduce you to my guest. Her name again is Charlene Decicco. Welcome to Awake and Aware. How was your trip?
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Nick. And I had a great trip. Actually, I had a really smooth flight. I had the whole road to myself. So I got my rest. I slept in. So today's been like my first real day back in Jersey.
Nice. Well, welcome back. We're glad you're here for sure. Bring great energy, and the sun was kind of shining today. We haven't had any snow in this neck of the woods yet, so cross our fingers. Keep it that way for a while, because it looks like it's 68 in North Florida. What the heck? Well, it might be really warmer here.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's chilly for you guys. You guys must have a sweater on.
Yeah, well, I didn't even wear a jacket here. And I'm just looking because I'm checking my Facebook to see. Oh, there we are. We're live, and just letting anybody out there know that we're kicking it over here. This is a great opportunity to, just share some cool stuff and be on the Facebook and have a community and unity with other people. And it's like you said with the weather. I mean, it was such a beautiful day today, and it's not too cold, but there's a nice little breeze in the air. Mother Nature's doing her thing. All the leaves are down. So, I mean, it could be really cold right now, and it's not. So I'm kind of happy that it isn't.
Nice. Likewise, I love the fall. There was leaves on the step today, and kind of like that. I like the cooler weather. I get more energy. I'm seasonally affected. And that's one of the things that I've learned about myself over the years, is that there are different times of the year that I have more energy. And summertime, pretty good. Springtime's a little low. But winter for me is absolute pits. Like I think it's just the lack of the sun and the clouds and the rainy, sleety kind of thing, especially up north. And I've been in the South for almost 25 years. So being back up north, I'm more seasonally affected. But for some reason, it's not spring or summer for me. It's the fall. I get the most energy then. How about you?
Well, I was thinking about what you said, and I'm kind of the opposite in some ways, because it seems like if I'm trying to get healthy or lose weight or the things that I want to do, I actually thrive well in the winter. It's always a good time for me to do, I guess that's why there's New Year and New Year resolution. And it's a really good time for me to start fresh and set new goals and just kind of take the bull by the horns. I think that the fall is my favorite season, but I feel most productive, or I have in the past, I should say, in the winter. But the harvest, in the fall, it's time of like reaping and just enjoying the harvest. And I love the fall and the colors back east. The winter is a time, when you're supposed to be storing up or getting ready for, the hard time ahead. But I think for me, even though it's a time of, in nature when it's really cold, the hibernation, I'm kind of more apt to enjoy that cold weather and yes, definitely have the warmth. Like I sleep better in the winter, I nest better in the winter, and then it's kind of like getting ready to come out for the spring. So I guess I'm vamping up, and then the spring is when I can be a little bit of like a lollygagger, or it's the time to travel for me because I kind of get like boop, bouncy and just springy around the spring. So I'd say that the spring can be just a time where it's like spring love, spring just enjoying and kind of head in the clouds. And, so it's like the winter, although it's cold and hard for many, I think it really motivates me. And I kind of, there's something about the coldness that it's needed. We have to go through that time.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree. Yep.
Like in the spring, if something sad happens, it's so hard to deal with. I just think the winter you expect to really have to get in there and batten down the hatches and just endure. It's a time of endurance, and getting through and persevering. And then the summer can be difficult for me with the heat. But at the same time, it can also be like, the diversity of just of not being, not having to think about anything. I don't know why the summer just is like that time off. Maybe that's why we had off in school in the summer. It's like it's just a time it just goes by so fast. It's like that blink of an eye time, whereas all the other seasons to me have so much purpose, where the summer it's just like you just kind of just do whatever until the next season comes.
Right. Very much. Yeah. Well, I think, being summer, we're also able to be active outdoors versus stuck inside and I guess it really makes a difference geographically where you're at. So there's a bunch of people joining us right now. I want to thank you guys for showing up.
Hi.
I just want to explain what the show's about. Wake and Aware is the definition of consciousness, and that means being conscious of your surroundings and yourself. And my whole idea for this show is to help people holistically find energy throughout the day to work their
Sorry, are you getting an echo?
A little bit.
I'm trying to figure out how to turn off the sound, but I just realized.
Perfectly okay.
Oh, there
you got it. Absolutely.
Okay. So I could see what people are saying.
Love
You're
it.
seeing them. So I wanted to say hi to everyone. And I'm usually not on Facebook Live. So this is great. Sorry to interrupt you, Nick.
Right. No
this
worries.
is a great feature. And I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. So I'm new to the scene. So just bear with me. But I wanted to take a look. So go for it.
I love it. No. This is all a learning process, and this is a community process too. So the people that join in are part of this show too.
Oh, wow. I
Absolutely.
see some people.
Yep.
Kat is on here, and Damien. Hey, there's people I know here.
Right on. Very cool. I'm glad you guys are joining us. So Awake and Aware is a company that I started about 3 years ago, and I started the show to match the energy and the vibe, good energy, high vibrations, and wavy vibes.
Awesome.
High frequency wavy vibes. And the whole reason for that is I used to crash at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and have to take a 2-hour nap every day.
Really?
And it split my day in half where I was only effective on one end of the day, either early in the morning or in the other half. And the other day I would have to go schmutz off and play video games or something because it was just wasted after taking that nap.
Wow.
So I learned things about myself. I became very introspective as to why that was happening, why other people could go 8 to 10 hours. I mean, I have the energy. I can, do a 12-hour day, no problem. But that midday crash, and it turned out it was all about the caffeine consumption,
Sure.
the way that I was drinking
Diet.
coffee.
So I think
for
so
sure.
many people still struggle with that energy levels and kind of just maximizing getting the most out of your day. And there's so many factors, so many things that come into consideration that affect us that we don't know. I mean, there's things we can realize, well, how much sleep did I get? What did I eat today? Have I exercised? But then there's a lot of unforeseens, like stress and depression, anxiety, stuff like that doesn't always come at us where we can understand. Some people are tired and don't realize that it's a depression. Anxiety can be from stress, and all of that stuff affects your mood. It's like when you're sleeping, you think that you're getting a good night's sleep, but if you have a lot of other stuff going on, it can affect. So you wake up, and then that feeling tired or not feeling like you're at your best, for me, it can be difficult because I want to make the most of my day. But I've realized, like you said, with the caffeine, definitely having to watch that consumption. But the other thing is like really key for me that has always in every way is exercise. And it's not even just like some people, I used to just take walks, and walks are great. And they still say, it's wonderful, but there's something about with like cardio, even if it's for a short period of time, like breaking that sweat and getting all of my endorphins going, and just the blood pressure, it clears the cobwebs. You just totally feel different.
Right.
And it could be like a 1 mile run, which I do quite often. And it's like, oh my God, I feel so amazing. I feel like the cobwebs are clear. I feel more centered. I feel like my skin, everything looks better. And then on top of it, it's like if I'm really hungry or like just wanting to eat to kind of feel better about myself or whatever, even after I just run a mile, it's like I don't have that hungry obsession with food. It's like I want to eat, but now I want to eat.
Starting to burn,
fuel.
change your metabolism. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
sure.
I think, God, if I could just run a mile every day, it's like taking a medication,
I couldn't agree more. It does increase your metabolism, and it helps your circadian rhythm. Exercise,
right, technical terms, guys,
right?
get ready.
Well, circadian rhythm is the rhythm that your body naturally falls asleep at and wakes up when it doesn't care about the actual clock. It's your own body's atomic clock, and helps you when you go to sleep or when you choose to go to sleep, maybe based around your work schedule or your children's schedule.
Okay.
But your body, your circadian rhythm is what it says, I need to sleep now. Not when you do, when you want to.
Well, you know what? I kind of have this thing that I can force myself to go and go and go. It's kind of an asset, but it can also be like a defect, because it's like I have to give myself a break. Like if I have to stay up and do stuff, I've done it. I've driven from New Jersey to Florida and packed everything up, moved down there, and then like unpacked, where a normal person would just like get some, it's like that mindset of having to make myself go. And then you hit that point, you hit the wall, and then your body's like, okay, this is, you're going to have to, so fortunately I've never overdone it where I've exhausted myself. Like I can just start to feel that delirium, and it's like, whoa, okay, I gotta take it down. But it's like, I always push myself to go further than I probably should. I've always said I wish I could do that with like fitness and exercise, because I would have been in so much better shape. It's like, for some reason, that's always the wall. Like I can push myself for a little bit, but then it's like, I'm just like, okay, that's enough. I want to, these people that get addicted to exercise, I've always wanted to try to have that, because I feel like it would be nice to know what that's like. Because even starving yourself, like people that just don't eat, it's like I never lose my appetite. It's just I can change what I eat.
Right.
Right. I still want to eat, even stress, anything. Nothing takes away my appetite, but I definitely get in position where I can eat better. I can make better choices. And I like feeling healthy. You know, when you eat things that don't make you feel good, I don't want to feel like that. And then I've wake up and I was like, I have a food hangover. And I don't feel any different than if I would have drank.
We're absolutely going to get into that. Like some of the things you specifically eat that stop you from having food hangovers, just like I was having the crash from coffee. Like the way I changed the way I consume caffeine. And I still drink caffeine mostly in tea now, and maybe even the same amount of caffeine, but it's completely different. I don't get the crash anymore because of the times that I consume it, the way I consume it, from doing research in it and not consuming as much in one shot, and also not doing it immediately when I first wake up. That's very hard for a lot of people, though, as most people need that cup of coffee within 15 minutes of waking up. I wait 2 hours before I have my first cup, but that's and I don't drink. Everybody knows I don't drink coffee anymore. I sell coffee, love coffee, but I'm a tea guy now. Yeah. I have tea time.
It's so interesting because I went to China last year, a little over a year ago, actually. And we went to a green tea farm and it was so great.
Fave.
You learn, like, I love the Chinese culture, but the thing about green tea and what I learned about tea leaves and really probably all of their tea leaves, like a hidden secret that we totally don't do. And we actually drink tea wrong. So out in China, that's really big on, you know how we have water bottles? Well, they have these glass water bottles and they have diffusers in them and they put the green tea in and they keep it with them all day, right? And so then they drink one, they'll fill it up a couple times a day using the same tea leaves. But what they do is they do not boil the water. They say that when you boil the water for the tea leaves, you lose all the potency. So the water isn't supposed to be boiling hot. The thing is, it's like hot or even warm, and you let it sit all day.
So like steep. A tincture then.
Yeah, so we lose, we're not even getting the full benefits of the tea when we boil it and stuff. So I thought that was so interesting.
That's that's my father always said when I was boiling, I would boil broccoli till it was almost mush and then throw away the water that had the broccoli in it. And it was just like you're throwing away all the nutrients. And every green vegetable, I did the same thing: spinach, broccoli, okra. It didn't matter what I was cooking. He said, no, you got to keep that water. That's where all the nutrients are, because you boil it. He said, you don't boil vegetables, you steam vegetables. And that way, no worries. And that's why they don't, and that's how you keep the nutrients. And that's another thing, like Charlene was mentioning, certain foods will make you crash. We all know about meat-itis, eating red meat and then having to take a nap.
I have such a weakness with red meat. I keep saying I'm going to stop eating it, and I keep trying to get away from it. And for some reason, it's always the steak that I literally wish that I could stop eating red meat. And even lamb chops, they're like a weakness of mine, because in LA, I have this butcher that I go to and I get really good lamb chops. And I'm like, man, if I could just stop eating red meat, that would be a game changer. And for some reason, I'm always finding my way back to it. It's like now I'm sitting here saying it, thinking, it's like, yeah, I can go without it. But then, I get in the mood for having a steak.
So I'm with you. I'm not, I'm pescatarian.
Okay.
For the most part. Sometimes, most of the time I'm pescatarian until somebody puts a really good cut steak. If somebody offered me a piece of Kobe beef, or I would chow down, because I'm not vegan and I'm not vegetarian. And I have done a lot of research. I eat mostly vegetables and I mostly eat vegetarian most of the time. And then I supplement. I eat quite a bit of salmon for strength and for antioxidants. And
but the thing with that is, like, some of the viewers might know, you guys should chime in. The problem with the salmon and the seafood is the mercury and and the farm raised or non-farm raised. Like, we can't even eat seafood anymore and get the benefits. I heard you have to buy from that company. It's like really expensive. It's called Wild something. And they make very sure that they're away from the mercury and all this stuff. But like basically all the stuff that we're buying, the salmon and the things that we think we're buying that are healthy for seafood, it's not. And so I've kind of, wondered, what am I going to do? if I want to try to, because I feel like you said, if I lean more towards fish, it's just, I feel better and it's easier to lose weight. It's just not as filling to me. That's the problem I have with seafood. But the tuna, the ahi tuna or the sushi grade tuna that's like steak.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I said, that I was like, this is how I can stop eating red meat if I can eat this tuna. But I always feel like I have it better out when I get it other than when I cook it.
So a lot of people know, and if you don't know, my mother had a heart attack about 6 weeks ago. Or excuse me, actually, it's only been about 4 weeks ago. She's home, she's well, she's recovering, and she's doing wonderful. But in speaking with her doctors and her new diet, because her heart attack was cholesterol based, learned some things that I never knew before. One, chicken's not good for your heart.
Really?
It just doesn't really do anything well for your heart. It's not that it's bad for it. It just doesn't do anything good for your heart. So I didn't say it's bad for your heart. It's just not great. It doesn't really do anything in the realm of your heart muscle.
Okay.
Another thing that really blew me away, seafood, same thing. Crab, shrimp, scallops, high cholesterol. All three of those are very high in cholesterol.
They've never been healthy for us. They say anything, and they're like scavengers. Even lobster. I remember watching this guy. I forget, but he said, that a lobster is an aquatic cockroach.
Yeah, they're bottom feeders. They just eat off anything on that falls to the ground.
And he showed like how it looks, and it really does. And the scavengers and what the shrimp and the clams and all that stuff. And you think about it, it is. They're eating from the filth. That's what they're living in, and. So I think for me with all of that, the only thing that I ever once in a while would like is the shrimp or the crabs. But even crabs, you can't get crabs like you used to. Shrimp, when can you get a good fresh shrimp? So it's like you're not really getting anything good anyway. So it's the fish that if I could eat the fish and know, like I said, that company that you can order from, and if I would lean more in that direction.
Well, the better the obviously, so farm raised. If you find a farm raised fish, it's generally going to have a certain type of feed. It's like a Miracle Grow plant. It's not organic. But if you can catch a wild caught fish, I'm not going to lie. I tend to try to find fish that's from the Atlantic Ocean versus the Pacific Ocean, just because of Fukushima, and you just don't know how close it is to that reactor and how radioactive that fish is.
Right.
So I tend to find wild caught from Norwegian fish or Chile, which is not the Atlantic, but it's so far south that it's usually a pretty good fish. And I eat a lot of salmon. But the doctor was very clear. All the doctors, actually, there was multiple doctors. They were very clear in saying that salmon is absolutely the best fish right now that we can be eating for our bodies.
Really?
Yeah, it's because of the oils that are in it. It's because of the antioxidants that are in it.
Omega,
and
right?
Exactly, and it's a wonderful protein in and of itself.
Right.
So listen, if you look at a bear, bears predominantly eat berries and salmon, and they didn't get that big off of berries and that strong off of berries. It's because they're eating salmon. And actually, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but I heard the guy who was the president and CEO of Vegan International actually last year got ousted and fired from his company for eating salmon. He said he had, after being 10 years vegan and the leader of all vegans, said he felt weak and that he didn't feel that he had as much virility as he had in his younger ages. And he found out the second he ate salmon, all of that came right back. So
that's, well, if you, a lot of people, especially in California, people switch to go to veganism. And like I said, I've tried, and I could probably get there if I just, focused more on it. I give in, but there's definitely ways to eat vegan, but even more so like the gluten. I think taking gluten out of your diet is probably, it's like just as important, if not as important as with the meat, because the thing is with the protein, I watched this documentary, and just even when you look at like with cows and how like dairy, there's so many things. It's not just the meat anymore. They want to say the meat, but it's also dairy and like the milk and everything, because like cows, this heavy cream and all the stuff that we're eating, it's like for cows. I mean,
well,
they
if you were to go find a container of raw milk. Raw on it, it's labeled. It says not fit for human consumption. That's the only way you can buy raw milk in America. Is it has to be labeled not for human consumption. That should say something to people. And then I'm thinking back to the 50s when we started selling white bread.
Right.
And it had no nutrients. It was just cardboard. It was literally cardboard. And they had to actually add nutrients, but then that was hurting people's stomachs. So they had to add an emulsifier. And then then the bread didn't taste good. So they had to add another thing. And then they were like, oh, well, let's just add all our vitamins and vitamin D. So now, we think that the only place we can get vitamin D from is milk. Well, milk doesn't come with vitamin D. It's added. That's a chemical, a byproduct that is added to milk in the process when they also remove all of the fat that's hard for your stomach to digest, and the mucus, because that's what milk really is milk and mucus.
And we shouldn't even be drinking cow's milk. It's goat's milk. Like,
sure.
When, so I don't know how that stopped.
Well, for me, it's oat milk.
Oat milk, yeah, which is good, right? Because you can totally steer away from having, and that's what I really wish I could get into, is this plant-based diet, because now it's like you can get cheese but from nuts, you can get milk but from nuts, and there's Beyond Burger, like there's all these ways to actually eat plant-based. And I feel like, like that movie, that documentary, The Game Changers, about that football team that they went plant-based and they wound up doing really well, and it just changed. It was a game changer. And I tell you that watching that so motivated me, and I did really good until it's just the meat is everywhere. But at least we're coming into a time where if you want to choose that way of life, if you want to be vegan, or if you want to take out the gluten, I think one of the things that I could do that would be like the easiest would be to do gluten free.
Oh, so I just want to thank everybody for joining us. We're starting to get to, Maria said it's the chemicals that make the milk, the wheat, and meat worse than it ever was. And the wheat we have now is a bastardized version of what it was 50 years ago.
I believe it.
So totally. So there's a couple documentaries on Netflix now. One is called King Corn.
Right.
I highly recommend everybody watches that. I also recommend that you watch Forks Over Knives. And has a lot to do with cattle and the fair and humane treatment of animals.
It's terrible. And we still, because it's like out of sight, out of mind, like no offense to anyone that's a vegan or anything like that, but I've literally tried to watch YouTube videos of the stuff that happens to animals to stop eating meat, and I'll do really good, and then it's like out of sight, out of mind. I almost said to myself, maybe I should just watch this every day so it gets burned in my brain of what they're actually doing to these chickens and the cattle, and just to think about that an animal even suffers, it cries and screams, and for some reason you go into the supermarket and it's packaged up, it just looks like food. It doesn't look like an animal.
Well, that's not how it naturally looks.
Right.
They cut it a specific way. They add dyes to it. They bleach it first. But listen, we're talking about certain types of food. Not all food is done this way or prepared that way. I think the best thing possible for people to do is purchase the best food that you can for the income that you have and for your family, but to strive to make better decisions in each thing that you can. Because sometimes we all know that we can't. A lot of people can't just go out and buy all the food that they want. One, it's not close to you. Two, you may not have a store, may not be close to you. The right types of foods may not be shipped in, and they might be very expensive. So the best thing you do is make the best informed decisions about what you buy and what foods that you're eating. Because absolutely a lot of food is, especially wheat, like you mentioned. I'm actually found out I'm allergic to wheat. So I've had I've had like 3 reactions in my life, and they were all to wheat. I kind of blow up like a blueberry and get hives all over my body. It's not fun at all. And I just say blow up like a blueberry because it always happens when I eat a blueberry muffin. But if you look at a lot of products, you realize that there's wheat in just about everything.
Yeah.
And even in girls' makeup today, they put wheat as a byproduct because they have to get rid of it. I won't get into how the whole wheat industry is ruining America and our economy at the moment. But let's just say wheat is a dangerous product. and celiac disease is a real thing.
Right.
So if you hear people, saying, "Oh, I don't want to eat gluten," et cetera, man, like these people are telling the truth. This is not a.
And you see people that just take gluten out of their diet, they lose weight.
Yeah.
Without
For
even
sure.
trying.
For sure.
And under the umbrella of Awake and Aware and your show and everything, I think about just like the Daniel diet, which is like fruits and vegetables, and just the very simple idea of eating living foods. When you want to feel awake and aware, like I know for me, if I'm not eating meat, if I'm doing my best to really just eat light and eat lean, or doing like a fast and a cleanse, I am awake and aware. The food that's heavy and that it's not alive and that's processed, it just brings you down. And these other processed foods, they have parasites in them. And it's so amazing because I do this often. I do cleanses often, and I do different types of fasts, whether it be like a Daniel fast, which is fruits and vegetables, or even a no sugar. And then I do the keto diet. So I have experienced all these dynamics, and I can definitely tell you 110% that your level of spirituality is completely affected by the foods that you eat. And if you can just keep it to living, like today, I will only eat foods that have been alive and they weren't processed in any kind of way. Just eat living foods. It's like you have a living mentality, a living spirit. You're awake and aware.
I have my uncle, who I cohabitated with for a few years while I was in college, turned me on to sprouting.
Right.
And there's some simple sprouts that people can sprout themselves, two of which that I can think of off the top of the head are amaranth and quinoa. And a lot of, you might find these in salads. People have probably heard of them. Or if you're looking like a really good bread, like Ezekiel bread, you'll notice that amaranth and quinoa in there. And they're like little kernel grains, and they look hard. They're smaller than rice. But most people don't know is if you were to take them and just put them in a small glass of water, like a spoonful in a glass of water, and let them sit for a few hours, they will open up and actually sprout and grow a little tail. They look like tadpole at that point, but they're still grains. And what it is they're still alive. They're ancient grains. Wow. You could literally take a 2,000-year-old kernel of amaranth or quinoa and put it in water, and it will grow. It will literally sprout. That's how hardy they are. And they're living. They're living nutrients, and they give us what are called phytonutrients that help us with energy throughout the day. There's these, I talk about it in the future. I will talk about energy vampires. And to me, what an energy vampire is a person who only takes energy from other people because they are not eating properly. They're not going out in the sun. They're not exercising. They are not feeding positive energy back into the world. They're just take. And these people also don't eat any phytonutrients. So they have to get phytonutrients from somewhere. And since they're not getting it from nature, they're taking it from people. Well, if you have, one of the things to counteract that is to eat live, living foods, green, leafy vegetables while they're still raw.
Superfoods.
Thank you, because I might have skipped over that. Anything that is a superfood, but most people don't even know what a superfood is.
Microgreens, like you said.
I love microgreens. I love arugula. I love sprouts. All of these things are high and dense in nutrients. They're actually really high in protein too, for what they are is dense when they're packed in dense.
That's the thing that people don't realize, that we've been kind of trained that we have to get protein from meat. And it's kind of a myth. And like all of a sudden couscous and quinoa came about. Like all these years we never had quinoa, and here it's been hiding right under our nose, or couscous. And they're like these better grains, so to speak. And what has been the last 10 years, maybe 15 years that you've ever heard of quinoa or couscous? I mean, I haven't before that. And I think they're a much better alternative than some of the things that we're eating out there. Alfalfa, is a great.
Alfalfa is a good one. That's probably my favorite. Actually, alfalfa is probably the easiest sprout for me to come by. Right. And so I ate a lot of it because of that. Listen, if you want to have a vegan sandwich or just a vegetarian, listen, a lot of times we use the term vegan and what we really mean is vegetarian.
Yeah.
If you want a vegetarian sandwich, get you some alfalfa sprouts. Literally just put some vegan mayonnaise, or some mustard on some gluten-free bread, and just load it up with alfalfa sprouts. You're going to be surprised. Hit it with a slice of tomato, some avocado, and some spinach or some lettuce. And I'm telling you, you're if you're a meat eater, I dare you to try this. You're gonna love it. Like you're like, man, I've been missing this, and then you're not gonna crash at 1:00. Mm-hmm. Like this is a powerful thing, and it's nutrient dense, and it has a lot of flavor, and you'll actually think you're eating a sandwich with meat in it. Like it's a, if you do it upright and put a little seasoning on it too, it may be the tastiest sandwich you've ever had. I was really surprised. It took me a long time to come up. They say the biggest skeptics become the biggest believers. Well, that's this guy, because I used to eat burger after burger after burger after bacon. I would eat burgers wrapped in bacon, wrapped in an egg, and then with a donut bun.
Well, the thing you're talking about is so the nutritional value and the health value, and like you're just explaining how vital this food is for us in feeling healthy. And I just think it's so profound that not only when we eat this food that we feel healthy and we get the nutrition that we need and our body actually uses food for fuel, but that spiritual aspect, that awake and aware. I mean, two perfect words, because there's a lot of talk about how food dumbs us down. It keeps us asleep. We're like people watch this show, The Walking Dead, but hello.
Careful, my cousin's on that show.
Oh, well, nice. But I mean, in a lot of ways, we are the generation of The Walking Dead. People are so disconnected. They're so, just out of tune, out of touch. And awake and aware is a spiritual term, but it's interesting that food plays a huge part, because when you eat these foods, like you're talking about, if you can eat like that for a week, just like Nick is talking about, you would be so surprised as to what you become awake and aware about, your emotions, the people around you. Awareness is like about that you're able to be in the world and like see past your own nose. Like you can, how many people have gone to the mall or the movies or a busy crowded place or where there's a room full of people, and you're not going in and buying what you need to buy or doing what you need to do, but you walk into the room and you're aware of like the people in the room, the temperature of the room. Like, is it a stressful environment? Is it tension? Like you can pick up on all of these things, and then maybe you go to the counter and who you interact with, and you can pick up their vibes. Like that to me is such a gift of how long people go through life just asleep and unaware. Awake and aware is such a great name for this show and such a great headliner, because I think in my life personally, that is what it's all about for me. It's like I want to be awake and aware and connected to that source, to what I believe is our creator, whom which I call God, and then I have my set of beliefs which I'm always trying to learn and grow, and they expand, and they they just formulate, and they come alive. But it's about being in tune. And if we're just eating whatever and we're not paying attention, and like you were in this place of disassociation, where is the growth in that? And your diet is so important. People just don't realize, because we talk about diet, we say losing weight, healthy, cholesterol, staying alive, but we don't say, hey, how about being in touch, in tune with the universe and with, a higher power? But this power, it's interesting that food that's alive and living, it like has power in our body.
Absolutely. So I believe the Brahmin believe that eating live food is important for having superpowers. I'm not going to try to butcher their language, but
I want to talk about the superpowers, because I mean, that's that indigo generation in the 80s, the whole thing that there was these kids that were born, or generation of that we were more spiritual and in tune, and there's different things they say that dumb us down, like mercury and process
technology.
Right. So it's like, if we could only get in tune with those spiritual powers, and with that, like, you had texted me today about the show, and I had told you, I said, I've been in this thing all week where it's like someone will pop in my mind and boom, they reach out to me. And it's like, are we, I don't know what star we're in.
You mean when you text me at 2:22?
Yeah. And see that?
Right.
It's like how, that stuff, there's no coincidence in like being in alignment.
Coincidence.
Yeah. And alignment and kind of having that, when you're in alignment and things happen and I definitely feel that is a superpower. And not to get too loopy, but it's interesting when people talk about like aliens.
The show we're on. Come on. That's
with aliens, that there's been these stories that they've seen a being and it was like they didn't talk, or even people that have crossed over and gone to the other side, they said it was like they can know each other's thoughts.
Right.
There's a scripture in like biblical that's like God knows our thoughts before we think them and that kind of stuff. So it's like that telepathic connection, and that's what I felt I've been feeling connected to.
That's energy aware. So I like to call that energy aware.
Energy aware.
So I've had a lot of friends over the years tell me that I'm a mind reader.
Wow.
And what it is I'm not a mind reader at all. One is I'm super aware of myself.
Okay.
And then the other is I'm super aware when my own energy changes from around me with other people. And being an intuitive, and you add those two things together, the thoughts that come to my head when energy changes, then I can jump to conclusions that are almost 100% of the time correct.
I do that.
That's the level, is we're all acting outside of ourselves. So, right. But I think in this world, we all have this level of privacy expectation that is real within our own heart mind field.
What do you mean privacy expectation?
So our heart is an electromagnetic field,
right? And
so is our brain, and those are connected through our nervous system. And we have this field that we call our immune system that actually extends almost to 10 feet out beneath us, 6 feet below us, and 6 feet above us. And it emanates from our heart. And that actually controls our energy field around us. Now, we're so attuned to it.
Whoa, that's so deep, but
right?
That's really good. I hope you guys caught that. That was so good, but go ahead.
So we're attuned to that. We don't feel it. We don't notice it. And our eyes and our sense of touch tend to take control over all of that and leave it to our mind to do, which does in our subconscious. This is our super attractor. This field attracts things to us with electromagnetic energy. It either attracts or detracts things from us. So in and of itself, it's kind of like a shield. And that's why we call it our immune system, because that's exactly what it is. It is a shield. So it keeps things in and out. So you hear people talking about you need to ground to keep your field free of negative energy. You need to shield to keep people from psychically either draining you or sending thoughts to you. Because if you're thinking about somebody hard enough, they're likely gonna come to the idea that you're thinking about them. That's where think about a person, and then all of a sudden they call you. Well, I could get into one day I'll get into the whole quantum theory of things and try to explain it how science is now 100% in agreement with the spiritual world. Right. We are no longer looking in back shelves for the metaphysical books and the books that just seem like tomfoolery to most people. You go to Barnes and Nobles today, one of the biggest sections is spirituality, metaphysics, self-mastery. That they're the ones keeping the bookstores open. So it's interesting that we used to, back in people like us, we used to in the back in the day used to have to go to the back of the bookstore and usually it was dark back there. There was no light. There was very little light. And we'd be all the way down in the bottom shelf just digging through looking for good books to read. It's a whole new world. It's wonderful that it's being embraced. Spirituality is everywhere. Like, listen, we have a place called Whole Foods. Now I realize Amazon bought it out and it's a big conglomerate now. But the intentions behind it when it first started still reign through. And the reason for that is Whole Foods. Those are foods that are whole in nature. I'm not going to keep going on about food tonight, but again, keep reaching for those higher foods, the highest level food. And if anything that I could recommend to anybody to get, somebody says, where can I start? What can I do? Stop drinking soda.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the first thing we tell you. Stop drinking soda. Get rid of high fructose corn syrup out of your diet, because it's actually just corn and it's a byproduct of fuel. It's not even corn that's consumable. Absolutely.
Anything. If we can I mean, it's really hard. You could say, let's get rid of everything damaging and think, oh my God, absolutely, 110%, I'm going to do that. But then you look at what you're eating, what you eat, and you'd be surprised, like, wow, that is. So, I mean, to not eat processed foods is so hard. But if you can do this thing like the living diet, fruits and vegetables, and then compile that with, non-processed foods, but like Nick said, number one, no soda. I think that is just right there as a recipe for success, even if you're eating meat.
Sure.
And then put the meat on.
Sure. Our body, and the amazing thing is a lot of people are like, I'm still spiritual. I still do all of that. I smoke cigarettes. I do drugs. I party all the time, and I'm still a super spiritual. Guess what? You are still a super spiritual person. But the thing is your connection gets much more. I don't buy into that. I think it's impossible. Everything is, to me, everything's spiritual.
Right.
But their level of their connection is much more tainted. Right. It's dirty. It's like having a dirty connector to a battery. It's only going to work so well. Eventually, you're going to be stalled out somewhere and need to jump because the connectors on your battery are real dirty. So that's the way I like to think of it. Is and all the foods that we're eating.
Or connected differently spiritually, because that's the thing. Everything is spiritual of nature, but it's like that lower frequency. There's the higher and lower, and we're we're tuned in to either or. The negative, the negative charges the positive. So I like this idea of that we need the negative. It used to be like, oh, I got to get rid of all these negative people and negative, and the devil made me do it and all that stuff. But in all actuality, like, we need the negative. The negative, it's like all things are working for our good and benefiting us, but that negative is to charge you. It's to push you forward. It's to engage, initiate. Like, you think of a rocket, that force that's pushing it up. And so if we take the negative, like the negative thought, they even say, like, when you exercise, if you have like all that, rage or anger or whatever, and you take that and you put it into exercise, you have a much better workout. You push forth, and you bring forth more power. So it's like, that negative energy, if we channel it and we use it to our advantage, it's just like when people get out on stage. That's why they're like, come on, give us some, give them a round of applause, give a lot of love, because what happens with a performer, anyone, you take all that energy, all that applause, all that energy, and you channel it and you filter it, and you bring it into yourself like a transmitter, and then it's like, and you give it back right to the audience. So it's like this exchange and feeding.
Exactly.
And we don't realize why when we go to these events, and that's why sometimes if you go to a mall, I don't know about you, but if you've gone to a mall and you come out and you feel like you're wiped out, it's like, because of all of that energy, all of those different forces, and they're just, it's not like you're in charge of it. I've got a tool for that. I've got a tool for that,
actually. And I want to jump in about what it is that you do too, because there was a great segue about going into, Charlene is often on stage and show, and she's no stranger to the camera. But I want to just jump in about going to the mall. Like, I used to avoid Walmart. Like, I couldn't go to Walmart for any reason.
First of all,
I mean, I just going in there would make me feel like there's memes of people wearing like radioactive suits to walk in there. That's how I felt, because at the time, I was doing yoga twice a day. I was eating nothing but high vibrational food. Had a really good clique. I mean, I wasn't in an ashram or anything, but I had a very peaceful day, and the most places that are normally shopped had a wonderful vibe. And nothing against Walmart. Actually, really, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a brother-in-law that works there, but other than that, I have everything against Walmart. But we'll get into that on another show. But here's the tool that going into a place like where there's a lot of people with a lot of different different types of energies. Absolutely. What I realized is I need to prepare myself to go into a place like that. Right. And it can be simply done in your car before you go in. And one of the things is recognizing that you're bringing good energy to a place and staying centered in yourself versus absorbing everybody else's energy. You really want to just be thinking about an output versus an input, and get your energies and your like I said earlier, your shield. And this is all mental. This is not a hokey thing. But if you want to imagine putting up your shield or your force field, that's certainly fine. But guess what? People may still bump into you. I do try to give people a very clear berth, especially now in the pandemic. But we absolutely want to be outputting energy rather than taking energy. So I prepare myself to do that. And the other thing is I bless Walmart, and before going in, I think about myself. I literally visualize myself blessing everybody inside the building itself, and all that is Walmart. And then I say to myself, I'm going to have a wonderful experience. And if anything that I come across that isn't, I will do everything I can to transform it into a wonderful experience. And then every time I go, listen, I'm not saying that I shop at Walmart on regularly, but I do hang out with people who do from time to time, or there's that one cable that I just happen to have, and they're open 24 hours for whatever the reason. So I do shop there occasionally now, and I feel more comfortable doing it. When I come out, I'm not burnt out anymore. Right. I don't feel like the plague or the death. But so that's a tip that, I mean, maybe that'll work for somebody.
Tactical tools, these are tools.
Yes.
I find it very interesting, and I hope that someone out there can say, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to try that. I mean, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm saying I'm in agreement with all of that stuff. And I think, how it is. I have this information. I've learned tools like you're talking about. And I think I get in the car, I go my day, and I get all consumed. And it's like, you have to take that time. It's like almost being spiritual laziness. I've been thinking about that lately. Like, I used to be so much, dotting my I's and crossing my T's, like thinking about, the first thing when you wake up, setting the course of your day, and, making a decision of how your day is going to go and how you're going to be in it, and just all of that stuff. And then going into the store. These are all steps along the way of a day that, honestly, I have to say, I have been slacking. I've been slacking. But in other areas, I think, it's kind of like you learn new tools and then you want to focus on that. And then I forget my basics. Like that is old school basics. When you're really trying to be awake and aware, it's all about like, your interactions and protecting yourself, putting up that hedge of protection and really just.
Oh, great term. Love hedge of protection. Yeah. Hedge of protection. Yes.
And then you get into this place. Like for me, my big thing was the thought process and the battlefield of the mind. So I have to, like, some days I just have to spend so much time getting my thoughts in order that like I forget, okay, here I'm going into this place. Let me make sure, coming in and going out that I'm going to, have this type of experience because I'm battling my thoughts or, emotions. So there's a lot that we have to deal with. I mean, it's not as easy as sometimes we make it sound. And sometimes we're focusing on, like I used to think of positive affirmations and all. And now I'm in this place of like that, we were talking about before, the power of now. And just, here I am, I'm going through something's happening to me. I'm feeling, some type of way because someone is not acknowledging me or giving, whatever. And it's like, oh, here I go. I have this opportunity to practice the power of now and detaching and feeling the joy and not letting my circumstance dictate my emotions and all. So it's like, if I'm doing that, then maybe all that other stuff that I'm talking about is getting backburned. Like, it's really hard to be all and do all, and we just constantly fall short. But I think again, if you come back to that, I'm just going to be awake and aware, and I'm the love and the light, and that's just what it is. That's who I am. You're going to maybe make mistakes, but you're in position. Like I know that these are the things that I am. I know that if somebody asked me, who I was actually on a major show, and someone asked me a question and they said, who are you? And I was like, and it's all the cameras and everything there. And I'm thinking, I honestly, I don't even remember what I said, but I know I didn't say that I am love and light. And that's what I wished I would have said. And that was like 3 years ago or something. And I said, from this day forward, I am going to know exactly who I am if I have to answer, and just even if it's I am love.
Oh, is that a dare? Can I ask you?
Absolutely. So I know today.
So Charlene, so if I asked you, without you naming your profession, without you naming anything you've done, without telling me your name, without telling me your age and telling me where you're from, can you tell me who you are?
Yes, I am love and light.
Love it. Yes, you are. You are a radiant light for sure. And I'm feeling the love for sure.
Because if I'm love, I'm light. So if I had to be one word,
love it.
love. And it's just like if the aliens landed or we were taken to another planet and they said, what is God? What is it? Who are you? Whatever. It just God in general, or creator, or whatever. Or if I had to stand before God and he said, who do you think I am? If anybody asks me what it is, who it is, anything of who we are, what he is, what this is, anything, one word. If you had to boil it down into one word, my word is love. It's What's your word, Nick? I want to know what's your word. I haven't found a better word.
Well, in all my years, the Ohm sound is pretty good. I'm not even sure if it's a word other than just a sound. Of course.
But that is also
I'm going to have to side with right.
Ohm. What is it? 432 megahertz.
I'm not exactly sure.
I think it is.
That sounds about right. I mean, I would have said 528, but that's the Schumann resonance, not the Ohm sound. So I think you're correct.
Yeah, because I believe in that universal sound of, because it's all sound, right? Like universe is one song, and we all boil down to song. Like when you talked about metaphysics and all, we're sound. We're just a vibration. Right. All that we are is a vibration. That's all anything is.
Energy, frequency, and vibration.
And the universal sound is the Ohm. That's why Ohm, I was all about practicing tuning into Ohm and being, because, I want to be one with the universe and all of that stuff. And so if I and even it's really a weird thing, but in a real deep way, everything we're doing is sound. And it's coming through because we have eyes and senses and all as something different. Our eyes are the camera and everything. But if somebody was watching, it would just be a bunch of sounds.
So somebody hit me to something once that it was one of those aha moments. Like my mind just said, it was blown. Sound and light are actually the same thing. And I wanted to challenge them on that. And I was like, but, I was like, and then it was interesting that they said, well, look, they said there are some subtle differences. He said, one of the main ones is that light can travel through space in a vast distance in a very short period of time. And I was like, yeah, that's true. He said, but it can't travel through walls.
Right.
Right. Sound can't travel through space almost at all. It can't travel in a vacuum, but it can travel through walls.
Is that powerful? How powerful is that?
And they're both just energy.
Right.
And movement. So, and just different frequencies. So I was like, wow, that's pretty, I was like, that's a lot, I haven't taken the time to go into any of our backgrounds yet. But I did do sound and super high frequency radios in the Army, and then came out and worked for Motorola and worked with these radios that, used very rare frequency and spectrum. Something we have radios that you can talk to somebody through the earth. Extremely low frequency.
That's a low frequency.
That's
then?
a low frequency.
It's interesting because low, bottom, earth, and even if you look at heaven and hell and darkness and under, it would be low. Go low. That's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So it's a low frequency.
Yeah, and then when you can use a super high frequency and an ultra high frequency actually, and bounce it off the stratosphere and literally bounce a free. This is where the ham radio operators back in the 70s and 80s. There's tons of ham operators still out there now. But they can literally use a small antenna from their home and talk to somebody from New Jersey and California, and it's at a certain time of day because the radio waves are bouncing off the stratosphere. And I just found that amazing how and we don't realize we're walking through a wall of cellular waves every day and Bluetooth wave. There's frequency all around us. Oh, for sure.
It's interesting how but invention, right? Like, so in the pioneer days, they just had fire or whatever. And then to say, okay, now we've discovered electric, so, electricity was invented. And then, okay, now we have radio. And they even said, the radio guy, I don't know if you guys know, but he actually committed suicide, the guy who wanted FM, because he kept saying, God, everything was AM. We weren't even on an FM frequency. And he was saying, listen, there's this other frequency. And they kept mocking him. They kept ridiculing him, and he would climb the highest towers. He actually jumped off the building, and Sarnoff and all of those guys. There's an Armstrong. They laughed at the idea of the FM, so, but then of course FM came into play. He was right. And, AM wasn't even a thing anymore. So it's like radio. Okay. And now then we have TV and then, digital, and we're just keep moving up. But it's interesting how these layers and invention happens. Yep. And it's like, what is right here in front of us that we're still not seeing? That's right here.
Now you're talking about opening your third eye.
But that again, I think though with that is that it's been happening. We're just dumbed down. There's no way that wasn't happening because they were all in tune with it. It's just we don't know. The door got slammed in our face, and we're missing out. But the old, seers and sayers, they knew what
Druids,
time it was.
Shaman.
Yeah, they knew what time it was. We're the dummies over here. But I just want to say something really quick because I have these two weird theories, and I actually did a podcast in LA, and it was kind of made fun of a little bit. We had fun with it, but in all honesty, I was being like super serious. But I have these two things experiments that I think and believe would be able to happen. One, when you were talking about the sound, is that how the tuning fork, they take the vibration and they can bake something. Like you could take a tissue and use sound and it rises. Well, I said there has to be a way that we could levitate through sound. Like we could move and use that as our power. I'd love to see that happen. That's my one theory of like, how can we just get so much powerful sound?
Is that how you think we built the pyramids?
No, I think the pyramids, I do think it was built on the backs and necks of many people. I can get with that.
Sure. So the reason I threw that in there, the curveball in there, is a lot of people believe that they vibrated the large stones through the sand with sound vibration.
My theory on that is no, because they had
they didn't.
Right. They had a level. And it supposedly wasn't invented. I believe they had advanced technology that they're hiding. And that's how they used machinery that is definitely more advanced than what they're letting on to.
Some of that. Me personally.
But also
manpower.
Manpower.
Is for the easiest thing that about any of the pyramids and then building it beyond getting into any other, because we could open up a whole bag here, is just simply most people don't know that the Nile River came right up to the edge of the pyramids in the times that the pyramids would have been. Boom. So there was water power.
Water power. There you go. See? And that's amazing.
And also there, almost all science academics believe that the pyramids were also battered because they had a sheath of it'll come to me. It begins with an M. It's a metal that was on the outside, and there's signs of hydrochloric acid inside. And when you mix those two things, with the ions in the atmosphere, that's a battery. Right.
I did watch that. I believe that totally. It's supercharged.
My man Damien over here says nope, aliens.
Aliens, yeah. But see, aliens were is the reason why. They were the reason. They were, because the thing with the pyramids is they're in alignment with the stars. So there's no way they wanted to build these, these super duper what do they call them, generators, to be in alignment with the stars in different places of the world. So it was because of the aliens. Now, did they give us the ability to do it? I don't know.
I have some insight into this because I have some friends that actually spend some time in the pyramids. Oh, wow. Not recently because of the pandemic, but they go and meditate in the pyramids. And there's some interesting things about the pyramids. First off, the chambers and the little, what people wonder, what are those for oxygen? No, you would go sit in the Queen's chamber and you would meditate in that room. And what would happen at certain times of the years, it's not like the picture shows where there's a star alignment directly above that shows Orion's belt over. That never happens. But what happens is those chambers do align with specific stars. So it's like dialing up a telephone book. So first off, you're going to get high if you're sitting in a chamber that's catching fumes from hydrochloric acid. It's just a thing. You're going to get high from it. The other is there's positively and negatively charged ions moving around it. Wow. And so basically this is a giant meditation machine.
Wow.
And so while you're sitting inside of this thing, aligning with a specific star that has light that comes in only when that specific star at a certain time comes through those chambers. So listen, not every pyramid, but we're talking about the Great Pyramids of Giza, the three main pyramids the Great Pyramid. I couldn't name them for you off the top of my head. I could Google them. But there's listen, if anybody's really interested into some really deep stuff in the pyramids, I recommend you go to a site called Moon Fruit by a guy named Gary Osborne. And this guy has more in-depth proof and facts and things like
information.
And it's of course it's all still conspiracy theory because nobody that was there was alive, but it starts to make sense. You're like, oh, this makes a whole lot more sense than.
Well, the light, it's like what I say, I am love. I think love is power, right? So I did this study because I used to have a show called the #Destiny Show, and
love that. Sounds great.
Right. And the thing we would talk about, one of the things that we did, and we would do it weekly, is the connection between words like power, light, love, electric, force, energy, spirit. All of these words come together under the same umbrella. They have the same meaning. And the thing is, it's this energy that's in the world or in the universe, just like the oxygen, the air that we breathe, the spirit, it's all one thing. It's that's the love. Like if somebody said, well, what is the love? The love is so that same love that I am, if I had to break that down, well, what is it?
That's a great term, I am.
Yeah, it's the air it's the oxygen, right? Because isn't oxygen what keeps me alive? If I don't have air, if I don't have my breath.
Talked about that last week, exactly. Yep.
So the love is the oxygen, and the oxygen is what keeps the universe alive, and it's very
some parts, sure.
Yeah, well, the things that, well, even if it's stone, right? It's the oxygen in the dirt and everything that forms and makes it a solid.
That leads me to a question. Then are crystals alive? Because they do vibrate on their own without any.
Yeah, because they're living. That's the very thing that makes it amazing to me when you think about the Egyptians and the pyramids and the gold. The Anunnaki, and like Damien said with the aliens, there's a theory about the Anunnaki and needing the gold to fuel and all. But think about, and even in majestic and in biblical and religions, it's always these precious stones. It's always these crystals. It's always this high power in magic, in occultism, in everything. It's these stones. And you think about this earth, they're in the earth. They're like hidden secrets, hidden gems. And also we have to pay for them. We don't even have access to the jade. Look, the Chinese have the jade, the witches and all of the crystal and the quartz, and even us, we know about different things, but we have all synthetic BS. Imagine if we were in a room that was actually these crystals and stone made of this, it's alive, it's living, it's force, it's power. They would make swords. They would have, they were force fields. They were energy portals and everything. And we're totally in the dark. And anything we buy, unless you're spending buku bucks, you're getting a synthetic version of some. It's just like the diamonds. The diamonds they're making. You've got to
be diligent in your shopping for sure, because a lot of stuff is pressed or
even
dyed
diamonds.
Or well.
They're being grown.
Don't get me started on the diamond trade in De Beers. That's that's another can of worms. We can go off forever on the weed industry, the sugar industry,
right?
The diamond industry, Walmart.
Well, you have to so I told you the one thing, right? Is to make a human tuning fork. I'm down. Anybody wants to do a human tuning fork experiment, please look me up. Put the information. Let's do it. I tell you,
listen,
totally
we can. You can even come back on the show and we can devote a whole show to that, because I'm totally down for that. That sounds absolutely amazing. I think
scientifically, if we had the right equipment, we could do it. And if I was a scientist, that would be my experiment. And the other one is.
Well, it sounds very Tesla-like. Tesla was very much into that type of thought, and he's like Tesla. One of Tesla's most famous quotes is. If you want to know the universe, think of it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Right.
Well, it's funny because I go to Griffith Observatory all the time, and let's close right now, but there's the Tesla, the Tesla coil, and it goes off on every hour, and you see the purple light. And that's another thing, we think of purple as royalty and majestic, and like that's the color that we get, the purple. I think that's very, I love, with
Indigo,
your awake and aware.
sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so the other thing, let me tell you, this is really, if you didn't think that was off, like, whoa, the human tuning fork, here's my other theory. And this is the one I did the podcast on, and they were like, just totally, and I guess it's kind of a matrixy and a little, but I believe that we can break the code. And what is it that we would have to do to walk up walls? And everyone thinks it's science and it's a formula and you can't do it. Okay, so this realm has gravity, right? So we can't.
Well, there's animals that can do it, so we
Right.
are. It's
But
certainly
then they
capable.
say they have their hairs on whatever, like.
Oh, there's there are actually gloves that you could buy right now from, I want to say, eBay. They came out probably 10, 15 years ago that this is a thing. You can walk up a glass wall, no
Right.
problem. It's a real thing, and they're actually just gloves that there's a suction cup for your toes and gloves. But yeah, this has been done.
This
has been done.
But
Naturally, here we're in the Philadelphia area.
right.
Before I left Philly in 1996, so I want to say 1995, there was a guy who climbed the Blue Cross Blue Shield building on the outside from bottom to top, and they call him Spider-Man. And I remember I was in downtown, and I remember looking up, and there was a guy on the outside climbing up a glass building.
Wow, he had the
No equipment. This was a climber. This was a free climber. He straight up climbed up there. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I thought that was amazing.
I love what Damien wrote. We've come all this way to discover lessons we lost. Well, I just want to say one other thing about that, because I had an experiment that I thought would be great. I mean, definitely if you have some kind of tool, it's like with flying, you can make human wings.
Right,
but
right.
This is my experiment. If I was a scientist and had a whole bunch of money and resources, I would say, so like picture like a circle, like a pod almost, and it's almost like a zipper ride or whatever. So you're sitting in the chair inside the pod, but then there's this arm, kind of like this arm on this microphone, and it's holding you. And so, because my theory is that it's mind over matter. So even though our universal laws don't allow us to walk up walls because of the gravity, but if we can get the mind over matter, and so you're in the pod and it shakes you around, so your mind doesn't know, then it puts you down. And it's like the side wall is like where it's putting you down. So it would have to have that arm. So it's putting you down on a wall that's going up.
Yep.
But in your mind, you think that you're on solid ground. You think that you're totally flat.
Yeah.
But because of the way the mechanical throws you, you don't know that you're not like this. So if you're placed like this and you think that you're like that,
Yeah.
could you walk up the wall? That's
called a paradigm shift. That's when you shift your understanding of a specific reality or a specific law into another. And if you hopefully one of the people or people who've studied this field with a paradigm shift think if you can get more people to believe it, the more that you're able to change that reality for that to become the reality. And it would take so there. This is a construct. When we say the matrix, we're talking about a construct where we all agree, and we agree to certain laws, because if we broke all the laws, we'd freak everybody out, and then this whole thing would just kind of explode because we're all holding it together with our mental acuity.
That's very Abraham Hicks. She talks a lot about
for sure.
like what you want to believe and what you put out there and focusing on.
It's actually biblical too. In Judaism, they believe that there's 100 people who keep the whole of reality held together.
Really?
But subconsciously. There are 100 chosen people at any given time throughout the world that are holding this whole construct together. And that's ancient Judaic mysticism. It's in the Kabbalah.
Is it in the Kabbalah?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's in the Torah, actually. I don't know, I couldn't take you to the right place, et cetera, et cetera. But if you Google it, you can find out about that. But with paradigm shifting, you're capable of doing that. But also, I like to point out to people, last week we did a thing called a perfect feeling thought, where we took less than a minute and only used 30 seconds to reach out for something that made you feel your best feeling. And it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter how much the resources you needed or where you would be, you had them in your mind. And what that really is there's no limitations in your mind. Okay. And when we talk about mind over matter, so if you can visualize yourself walking up a wall in your mind, that's a real place. That is an actual place. There's an energy just like you use in your body. Without your body, you're capable of doing anything. And that is the actual reality that we truly live in as lack of a better word, as over beings of our body. Our subconscious can do anything in our mind. It's the limitations that we build into our mind through indoctrination and the viewable observational world, what we pick up and what we believe is to be a reality and not be a reality. There are people who can jump crazy distances, run ridiculously fast, lift things. And I'll kind of jump back to the fact that I mentioned the Brahmins earlier. And through yoga, that they have these yogis believe through doing asanas and training your breath and building up prana, that there are tons of potential. And when I say tons, not like, oh, it's not just flying, it's not just superpowers. There's hundreds of them. There are all these superpowers that can be unlocked in the human psyche that we can use. So that's one of the things that yogis believe, and I'm in that bunch. I have some superpowers. We'll talk about them at another time. But they only came to me through breath work, doing asanas over a period of time. And like Damien said, he mentioned practice and then practice to the point that it becomes habit. And that's one of the things too that unlocks power. Like Damien just said, monks do it well. Like monks as well. Yeah, but for sure, like monks have superpowers, like totally. They spend most of their time just focusing and honing their intention and building up energy into that. I've always been a believer that some of those monks are definitely got to be that 100 that are holding this whole world together. Because, for this place to be as pristine, truly untouched, as pristine and as loving as it is, somebody's got to be putting some, or it's some animals. It's probably a conclave of owls and bears sitting around somewhere.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you say that, and I believe that in some sense, but I also think of people that are super practical type A people that are like super not thinking outside the box, that will hold this whole thing together with no reason for any kind of spirituality.
Yeah, but they're probably so low vibrational and it's not getting very far. It's probably just bloop.
Well, I mean,
in their reality, it definitely is. But maybe, who knows? I mean, like, there's the beauty of also in this reality is we live in so many dimensions. Everything's possible from dimension, and it really the further you go down the rabbit hole, man, like you can take yourself really out there and have all kinds of experiences,
But that's what I love. Like, so I have these seasons in my life where people play a mentor role. Like we were saying, Eckhart Tolle is kind of like being a mentor to me now, and I have my constants. But so Abraham Hicks was like there was a real for like 3 solid years. I mean, I was just really into it. But one of the most key things that I like, about that teaching in that way, is kind of like just what you were saying about with the practicum of these 100. It's this idea, because before learning this tool or this way, from really getting it from the Abraham Hicks, there's this idea of all of this negative, right? And you have to, for me, I was always praying against all of this stuff, or just, that negative wasn't to me such an asset as it is that I see it now, where that negative charge is a positive. But the teaching that I wanted to talk about is what you're saying now, is that imagine if we don't look at it like, okay, we would say there's this end of the world. There's this time that's going to come where, technology or nuclear, I would think of not even, bringing religion into it, the fight over greed, and we're going to go into this place of nuclear war, and it's going to be, look at COVID, super negative. And the thing is, without denying that any of this stuff, but we don't even say that. We don't focus on that. And that was like, that blew my mind away. Like, in other words, I don't even look at that negative. I don't speak that negative. I act as if that negative isn't happening. And it's almost like this power that you have and take into the universe, that you make it not true. But if you keep saying all this stuff negative and feeding it and all, then it's like it comes alive.
She's describing alchemy.
Oh, interesting, right?
Right, where you can take one thing and turn it into something else, or make it serve you. I like to use the term, is it serving you? Because for after my awakening, everything had to be, well, actually, it was about, when I first woke up, it was all about what felt good. What kept me in a state of feeling positive.
How did you know that you woke up? You say woke up, but like, what does that mean? How did you know one day?
I don't think we have.
Awake.
I don't think we have enough time for that one on this show. But well, listen. Ultimately, what the change was is I became aware of other people. Okay. I became both awake and aware. I say that we wake up. For me, it was recognizing that all the norms that I believe had to be true they didn't need to be true at all. Like, if I didn't go to work that day and I quit my job, like, oh my God, every negative thing was going to become me after that, because I was no longer the person that I thought I was based off of my title. Once I let that go, I realized very quickly that life could get better. Also, I felt like I had to say no to everything that didn't involve my direct normal flow of things of my little circle. I would say, no, I can't do that. I started saying yes to everything, and everything just started getting better.
Wow.
So basically, and the other was that I couldn't quit soda. Right. And when I quit drinking the 2-liter bottle of soda every day, I felt better. I was more connected. I started seeing coincidences. I started seeing coincidences. And we all use the term synchronicity, but they're not synchronicities, because synchronicity means they have nothing to do with each other. I've talked about it before. Carl Jung coined the term, and that's how he meant it. But we all use it to mean something does have meaning together. But it's one of those words that mean the opposite. Like we say, going to the beach, but actually what we mean is we're going to the shore because we're already on the beach. Or like, I'm going to sleep, which means to die, and to get rest means to regain energy. So like, we use a lot of terms improperly. Somebody earlier was talking about words having vibration, and you were also talking about them having power. Absolutely. And using power words. I'm going to throw another, 1%ers, royalty, old families, etc. They use a different language than all of us do. Even though they're speaking English, they have words that we don't use. Boy, am I really starting to sound like Alex Jones right now.
Yeah, but like what? What do you give an example of what you're saying?
Well, then I'd be telling everybody that I'm a 1%er. One is definitely, just if you use a dictionary, the word sleep means repose of death. Right. So, and it's the deep sleep. That means death. That is direct translation to the word death. So when you say, I'm going to sleep, well, you're not getting energy back when you sleep. When a battery, or how about when you say you're tired? Tired means spent.
Right.
When a battery is spent, it no longer recharges. So these are words that actually drain us and attach to have the wrong meaning. What we really need is we need to recharge.
Well, guess what? Just to interject there. In a sense of that you don't know, like if I say I'm going to sleep but I'm going to death, but I don't know that I'm saying that I'm going to death, some of that power gets lost because it's
a little bit. Sure.
It's unaware. It's when you know
that you're
saying
but when
bad.
You say no, you're talking about your conscious mind though. Your subconscious mind knows what all those words mean and know the energy and the frequency and the vibration, because they all have a hierarchy placed via frequency and vibration of what they are.
Well, you know what? I will agree with that. And I'll say that's why, because sometimes I have this prayer that I say, like I break the power of negative words that are spoken over me, about me, or around me. Because I think of like perfect example, Steve Irwin, who always was doing that. And it just dawned on me. I was like, how the heck did he get stung by that stingray and die? And I think that all those people that watched him, you thought, oh my God, one day he's going to die doing that. He's crazy. One day he's going to die. Those animals are going to kill him one day.
Possibly.
Day and I just think that negative, but if somebody was standing in the gap and saying, you know what, I put a force field around me of any negativity that, unless it's like you said, serving me, these words will not cause me harm. So your words will not.
So I did some research into the Steve Irwin thing because I really loved him, and I felt kind of the same way. I knew that he was a loving creature. After once having a meditation in a little meadow, and there was a little pond and stream, and there was all these little crabs and lizards. I was just kind of hanging out with two ibis. It was a male and female ibis walking along in the stream together, and I was saying to myself, well, if I get my energy right, can I get them to walk over to me? And so I sat there for about an hour, and I was like super calm, super peaceful, and two lizards flew out of nowhere and just ran over my feet. And oh my God, I was jumped, and it startled me so bad. I was scared. I was like, because I'm not afraid of lizards. Like, I like lizards. I would hang out with them, but they startled me. They wanted to see what I was going to do. Nature and animal kingdom can do wild things, and they have wild instincts. But in this research that I did for Steve Irwin, I don't recommend anybody go out and look for it, but there is footage. So of what happened. And there were people there. Yeah, it was not he was doing something he should not have done. He made a mistake.
Okay.
It was Irwin's mistake, and he positioned himself the wrong way, and he was in the wrong place doing the wrong thing with that.
Do you think it's like pride?
But also what I mean by being in the wrong place is he put himself in a place where he was super vulnerable, almost knew better, but that stingray wanted him. That it didn't just, the stingray stung him. They don't tell you this a bunch of times. It wasn't just an accidental barb sting to the heart.
But what do you think that's
He was stung
about?
like 16. Well, first off, this was a giant stingray. This was not a little itty bitty.
Do you think there's some pride of like, look, I'm this guy. I can do all these things. Like, I'm untouchable, and I'm putting myself in harm's way in a world, that's a creature.
That's when you no longer respect. That's when you're not respecting nature. Because no matter, I could be a bear whisperer. You drop me off in the Arctic with a polar bear. If he's hungry, he's going to eat me.
Right.
He doesn't care what my vibration is.
Did he have this sense of like nothing's going to happen to him, or was it their mating season? I mean, it's just the mistakes that he made. Did it have to do with like having no business being in there?
Well, this stingray may have likely never seen a human being.
Okay.
So he doesn't know what this thing is that's trying to grab him. And that's why he was doing something to something that's not domesticated, is only been out in the wild, may have never seen a human being, and then all of a sudden, this human being is grabbing hold of it. And Steve may not have let go. I mean, he was swimming with it on it, underneath where the barb could attack him, and that's what happened. Is he didn't let go, so believing that it, so. The thing probably just assumed that he was attacking it and trying to attach itself like a barnacle and tried to clean itself off.
Just
Guess
very
what?
ironic.
Well, the thing is why it's not. It has a barb specifically
to kill.
Right. If Steve was on top of it, that barb couldn't have killed it. Couldn't have killed him. So he put himself in a dangerous position with a dangerous animal that its nature is to use that. Which they don't. They're pretty docile from what I understand, and pretty friendly, up until you corner it. And if you don't let go when it wants you to let go, that's unfortunately, I think, is what happened.
It's very fascinating. It's very
if you drop sweat into an alligator that you've trained for 30 years, it's going to close its mouth. We've seen, so it's. I think it was purely instinctual. I don't think it had any, and that's the thing with animals is where they startled me. They hurt. If I had been a vicious animal, for those lizards to come fly across my feet, I had to respect their habitat and the habitat that I was in, and respect the nature. Because I took time to get to even where I sat down. I talked to the trees when I say talk to, I acknowledged the trees first and asked them to show me what was there. And then I asked them to show me what was, what wanted my attention and what wanted to seek my attention. But the funny thing is once I didn't freak out when these lizards came across me, guess what came up to me?
Wow.
The two ibises.
They did.
Absolutely. So,
wow.
and I'd been there for about 3 hours at this time, and they literally walked up to, I didn't reach for them or change.
I'm so sorry. What is an ibis?
An ibis it's kind of like a heron. It's a giant bird. It's a giant bird. Kind of looks like a stork. They have, not a stork, a flamingo, except they have a long, some of them have hooked bills, some are straight. And heron, when I said heron, I meant heron. They are beautiful winged birds, but they are in the Chinese culture. They're spiritual. They're a symbol of spirituality, like the dragon, kind of like a crane. Mm-hmm. So they use cranes throughout their motif to denote spirituality and airiness. There a plethora of them in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Well, they're still rather rare than other birds. Maybe 1 in 100,000 of other bird species would you see one of these. And they're often seen alone, but sometimes you see them in 10 to 20, wherever there's a little bit of water. So I see we're running out of time here. You had mentioned that you might have something to do after the show. It's rounding up at 10 o'clock. Before I close down the show, though, I want to bring up a book that I just recently got.
Okay.
This is a friend of mine's book. This is Amanda Meyer, and she just wrote this book. It's number one on Amazon right now in multiple categories. She's going to be on the show December 13th. I want you guys to look forward to that. The book is called Breakthrough Success, right? And it's an amazing book. I've already started reading it. I haven't finished it yet, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Her story is amazing for her. She had some trials that happened in her life, an untimely death of her son, and an untimely suicide of her son. And she has bounced back and dealt with the depression and dealt with all the things to still be an amazing, successful person. And her book being number one is absolutely proof of that. And she's just an amazing person. She's a friend. She's a personal friend of mine. Her and I used to bartend years and years ago together. And I'm just super excited that she's super doing successful. She's going to be on the show, and I'm going to be giving away one of these books. So before I close out the show, I'm going to take a call. And one of you guys are going to get Breakthrough Success tonight.
You guys better call. Listen, she writes in here, since losing Logan, her son, I've made it my life's mission to help others find their purpose in life. I mean, she said, looking back now, I felt like a part of me died that day. Can you imagine? I have 4 adult kids, and to lose a child and to rise above, I mean, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to reading this book. I would love to interview this woman. And I think how amazing that, she says that purpose. That's all about like the hashtag Destiny show. And my mission was all about finding your life's purpose. So we're in alignment. I definitely will be reading this book. And I hope one of you are going to call in and get a copy of this, because this is someone who's gone through some stuff and she's gotten through to the other side. So there's a lot of inspiration and hope with that. So, it's like she just talks about how she's living with no regrets and her purpose,
First person who calls in gets a book.
Yeah. And
it's a Breakthrough Success.
I'm going to be reading it. I'll tell you really quick too. Nick didn't mention what I found out about this book. There's a lot of like little short. So for anybody who's like, oh my God, it's a whole big book. It's a lot of little nuggets of hope from different people. So it's like a hodgepodge of hope and inspiration. She tells her story, but there's a lot of interesting stories in here. So that's what I love, because sometimes it's like I feel, oh my God, how am I going to get through all this whole story of one story of a whole book? And you can read. There's some that are just like a couple pages.
That's exactly what I did. Is I read her story first and then moved on to somebody else's, and that's perfect, because it's our attention's going in every different direction. The numbers that are above us, the 2709 and the 3354. Call either one of those. I'm waiting for somebody to call. If not, I'll move it to next week. But I hope one of you guys call in and get this book. Just show us some love, ask us a question, say what's up to Charlene and myself, et cetera, et cetera. We're here. Yeah. The line is open. So we'll give that another few minutes. Sometimes the line does get clogged up. So whoever makes it through first, if you just call in, you will get yourself free Breakthrough Success. And the beauty of this is this book helps you be successful. This is one of the most successful people I know living life right now. She travels the world everywhere other than right here. Charlene is an amazing person. I'm going to bring Charlene back on the show again. Awesome. She's on the West Coast, but we'll probably do a video thing as well.
I would love to share with you guys
for
my
sure.
story and hope. And, my whole life is built and predicated on hope and having to go through stuff to get to the other side. So that's why I really think this book would be so fundamental for so many people, because isn't that what it's about? We all have to go through stuff, and what we learned, the journey. If I didn't go through anything and life was so easy, I wouldn't have the enrichment that I have from learning tools, and the hunger and thirst that I've had to have for coping mechanisms, for tools, for strategies, for means and ways to overcome my life. Or I could have just said, you know what, screw it, and give up. And even knowing and having it all and being a full-fledged fighter in this battle of life, there's days when I could feel like giving up, but I won't. And I don't. And then sometimes I think, oh my God, could I? And I can't look at that. I have to be like, I'm not just for today. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing forward. I can do all things. I can stay strong. I can learn, and I can overcome. even if I'm falling short, I can overcome. And obviously this woman has gone through some stuff, the pain and tragedy. I've lost a lot of people that I love. And that pain and tragedy is so hard to overcome because you can't get past, the loss. The phone
got
is
somebody.
ringing. Get this book.
Nice. I didn't think we would. Let's see here. Let me bring you into the show. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. Who's this?
This is Damien.
Hey, Damien.
Damien.
Right on. I kind of had a feeling it was going to be you.
Faithful listener, though. He won the prize.
Nice.
Yeah. Listen, I was waiting for somebody else to jump in and grab that book.
That's what everybody does. It was meant to be you.
I'll take it. And just to say hi to Charlene.
Hi. I know you're out there cheating on me in Florida. You and Tracy living it up.
I'm home now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. I was running around. I had a great time.
That's awesome. That's so great that you guys did that.
Yeah, I was bonked out when I saw that somebody needed a ride from the airport and it was you picking you. I was like, "Aren't you in Florida?"
From over here.
How does that even? I guess you got back first.
Yeah. I got back just right before her, and I just waited around and picked her up and took her home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what an experience! Just to, traveling for work can be a drag. It sounds like fun, but then it's all about perspective, right? So, I don't know. I wished for something more, and I've been running into people that I know.
Wow.
I've been meeting some new people.
Yeah.
I've been having adventures everywhere I go.
I seen you.
You open yourself up to more, not even wanting more sometimes, because we all want more. We've always wanted more. Our class of people, all we want is more. But do we open ourselves? You've opened yourself up.
How does this get better?
Absolutely. And that's what happened. And it just keeps happening.
Good for you.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
And now you got this book to keep with you, because that's what I love about these books in this process.
This is a perfect traveling book too.
We don't arrive or graduate. Like, I am in constant need of help. Constant. Do not leave me alone for 1 second with myself. So this is like, boom. When you get this book, you're going to see, you guys missed out or you can still get it, but there's all these little stories of hope, all these individuals that have something to bring to the table to say, hey, keep your chin up and hang in there.
Charlene, what I'm thinking is Amanda's going to be on the show. She's going to come in a video. She's going to talk about her book and her wild successes and the trials before and during and even after, because that's another thing. The whole purpose of the show is for deal with the trials that we have as conscious people. Like,
right.
Most of the people I know are super conscious, but we still go through stuff and we have to deal with loss. We have to deal with hurdles and roadblocks and curveballs and all different, and people who are not as vibrationally on the same wavelength as we are.
But I love what you said about it's like the opening the more because you wanted it, or you see it, but like, that's what I did. I mean, I had the picture of De Niro on my wall, and I was like, one day, and you remember coming to my house in Williamstown. What was that room? It was a movie room. It was a Hollywood room, and I didn't even know when I made that Hollywood room that I was going to wind up in Hollywood. But I mean, I got in the picture, the movie with De Niro, and I even did one up when I was in the movie. I said, I'm going to be in the trailer. I was like speaking, and don't you know I was in that trailer? Like, I mean, just so many things. I have a list of things that, like, the Wizard of Oz and getting that part. I mean, it goes on and on and on of how.
So spell it out for
happens.
us. What exactly are you talking about?
I am talking about, like, you think it, you believe it, you ask and receive, but
asking it is given, thinking you grow rich, the law of attraction.
Yes.
Mind over matter, change your frequency and your vibration to match the things that you would like, and they shall be so become.
Yeah. And that's just the key. It's keys. Right?
Love you, Damon. We lost Damon on that. It's all right. He still gets a book.
Yes, you're getting that book, boy.
Call back in if you still want to chat. And if anybody else wants to call in, please, right now. There was somebody else trying to call in. If you were calling in for just the book, well, Damon won it. But guess what? Call back in. I'd still like to hear what you had to say. mean, this has been a great show. So, if you guys don't, where can anybody who's watching this? Where can they find you, Charlene?
Awesome.
What are some of the projects and things that you're working on right now?
Sure. Well, I'm in Los Angeles. We have a show on LA 36 and also on West Hollywood Public Access. The show is called Addiction and Recovery TV. This season, we're focusing a lot on spirituality and how people are just like, what spiritual practices are you using to cope and to get by? We do a lot of, discussions on substance abuse, but the show, it's just everything addiction and everything recovery. So
Nice.
we're on Monday nights at 11 o'clock on LA 36. We're also on West Hollywood Public Access on Tuesday nights at 5:30 p.m. But you can watch all of our episodes on Facebook if you go to Facebook at Addiction and Recovery TV. And we would love to hear from you. Maybe you'd be a guest on our show. Maybe you comment, like the page. And, if you have a service that you want to provide to people, we love to interview people that have something to offer to those that are sick and suffering in any way. So reach out to me like that as well. And
Awesome.
stand up, if you're in LA and you stand up ever happens again, I do the stand up comedy circuit, at the Laugh Factory, at the Comedy Store, at Flappers. I'm a regular comic at Flappers, and there's a new comedy club. I got booked as a headliner, but COVID happened. So we'll see how the comedy career is going to pan out. But other than that, I'm the infomercial queen. If you guys see me, you might see me on an infomercial or commercial or a TV show. One day, hopefully, I will have you'll be seeing me every week on a show. That's
You hear that, guys? So let's do some affirmations for her and add that to our own positive vibrations and send that out. That does happen for her, as we'll do the same for you. Next time, I'd like to see people putting things that they would like. We will send out positive affirmations from the show and affirm for you guys and send it back out. Like I told you, this is a community, and we're here to just help each other and grow, thrive, and and also reveal and find the truth about who we are, what we are, and once we do that, how to become exactly what we want in better ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. It's been a great show. You guys are awesome. Great topics. Great discussion.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to end on 10, 11. That's 111. So,
whoa, there
right?
you go. Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a wonderful show. I will see you guys again in a week on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Thanks a lot. Peace, love, and light.
Yes. Bye.
Wake up. I'm up.